I'm heading to Lexington, Kentucky today because I've got a wedding to film tomorrow, but there's a really cool castle that's over there in the area that I want to go visit. And while I'm over there, I'm going to go visit my friend Slater, because that's where he lives. You guys remember Slater, right? Awesome dude. But anyway, it's going to be about a 3-hour drive, so gotta get some gas. But man, I tell you, this is going to be a very, very, very busy weekend. So I'm here at Versailles. It's French, Versailles. I'm going to say Versailles. Versailles, Kentucky, which is very close to Lexington. As you can see right behind me, there is in fact this big old castle. From my understanding, a gentleman built this in the late 70s, early 80s for his bride. Didn't work out. And he just let it go to ruin. Somebody bought it, they didn't do anything. Somebody else bought it a couple years ago, and now they've turned it into this bed and breakfast. Now it's a venue where you can actually have weddings. It is super gorgeous. In this particular episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my thoughts on using the a7 III in very low light conditions for a wedding, because that is in fact what happened on this particular day. It was raining outside and inside in this particular house where the women were getting ready. There was a little bit of the overcast light coming through the windows, but most of it was the yellow light coming from the fixtures above. Right here where the ladies were sitting on the couch, most of the light was in fact that overcast sunlight that was coming in through the windows. There were 2 fairly large windows beside the couch where they were sitting, so that wasn't too much of a problem. But I do like listening to how the photographers like to pose all the people. And here we've got a lot of the yellow light from the living room, which wasn't too far away, hitting the bride right in the face. Some of the bridesmaids back there, see, like you can see where all the yellow light was. So, I mean, really, as a wedding videographer, you're learning right on the spot how to deal with all kinds of lighting issues. All kinds of issues to begin with, but lighting is pretty much like the first one. Like, see here, this is all of like the dining room lighting. They took some selfies of themselves, but then I had them come to the window where I did it for them. Right upstairs. Upstairs there was a lot of sunlight, a lot of overcast sunlight, so that was okay. And then when the bride walked down, the stairwell was supremely dark. Or actually where the bride was, it was really, really dark. You could see the light in the background there in the restroom is all blown out. That's just merely because I needed to compensate for how dark it was. And here, this is a different house where the other bride was getting ready. And you'll see that's merely a lot of the light coming from like the living room, which is the same light that you see right there in the dining area. Now we move to a hotel called Hotel 21C. None of the wedding ceremony was filmed in the castle, so if you thought that any of this footage was going to be the inside of the castle, I do apologize. I'm just wanting to show you what's going on here. So that is actually right there where the wedding itself took place. We are in the hotel literally across the street called Hotel 21C. Now, moving on to the wedding ceremony, the wedding venue itself. As you can see, right here in the reception hall, there's a lot of those light bulbs overhead surrounded by wood, and it was really, really dark. Right there, I've got my camera, I've got my Sony a7 III on a gimbal, and whenever I use my gimbal for now, if I'm not doing real estate photography, the only lens that I use on my a7 III on a gimbal is the kit lens that it came with. So it's the 28-70, meaning that the aperture was 3.5 to 5.6. So I couldn't really compete with the low light issue that I was having there. And here in the And here in the ceremony hall, which is right across the reception hall, like the light was still the same. So I just had to deal with all of that. A lot of it was still shots, nothing really fancy. Back in the reception hall, dealing with the cutting of the cake. I think this particular shot right here, my Sony a7iii, is actually on the... No, this is my Sony a6300, and it's got the Canon 24-70L USM, and I've got this at the widest open aperture at f2.8, so that's why it looks a little bit bright, even though it actually really wasn't. It was still pretty dark in this room. So I've got this one on a tripod, and I'm actually walking around with a gimbal with the a7iii on the gimbal. So the whole day, really, lighting was just my biggest nemesis, just dealing with the different kinds of light, going from sunlight to like that tungsten light, and then dealing with really, really low light conditions, as you can see right here, during the dancing. This particular camera, yeah, this one I was using the a7iii with the Canon 24-70 f2.8. Of course, I was wide open f2.8, just trying to go through all that. And so Lexington, Kentucky is about 3 hours away from where I live, about 160, 170 miles away from where I live. And I drove about 120 miles of it in the snow because it started snowing on me that particular evening. And I wound up having to pull off the road and going to a hotel, which I was not happy about because I did not want to spend money. Stupid weather grounded me. So I'm missing my trip to Dallas. I am super butthurt about all of this right now because, dang, that trip was going to be a good one. But you know what? Stuff like this absolutely happens all the time in my line of work. So I guess you just gotta roll with the punches.